A young college student named Frank sits in his small dorm room. He loves anything that flies. He's been obsessed with flying things ever since he was a kid. But he doesn't just play with toy helicopters. He takes them apart and builds them better. Now, he's working on something even cooler, a flying machine called a drone. At that time, drones weren't like the ones you see today. They were big, clunky, and really f***ing hard to use. Only professionals, like people in the military, could fly them. But Frank had a dream. He wanted to make a drone so easy that anyone could fly it. It wasn't easy though. Frank spent all his money working on his idea. He even had to borrow money from his friends. After lots of hard work and failed tries, Frank finally made the perfect drone. It was small, smooth, and super easy to fly. You didn't need to be an expert or a pilot, and off it went. In 2006, Frank started a company called DJI, and soon, his drones became really popular. People all over the world were buying them. Photographers wanted to use them to take pictures from the sky. Filmmakers used them to make amazing movies. Even people just like you started flying drones for fun in their backyards. His drones became a perfect mix of simplicity and power. You didn't need to be an engineer to fly it, and yet, it could do things no one thought possible. DJI kept improving. They added stabilizers to make videos silky smooth, cameras that captured 4K footage, and sensors to help the drones avoid obstacles. By 2015, DJI owned almost 70% of the global drone market. Want to save baby turtles by tracking their nesting grounds? DJI Drones could help. Need shots for your indie film? A DJI drone made it possible without blowing your budget. When something gets really popular, people start paying extra attention to it. By the late 2010s, DJI drones were everywhere, flying in backyards, making cool movies, and even helping out with big, important jobs. But as these drones became more famous, some people started to worry. Governments began asking, where is all this information going? You see, DJI drones don't just take pretty pictures, they also collect data, like where they fly and other details about the area. Since DJI is a company from China, some countries, like the US, started to feel nervous about that. In 2020, the US government made a big decision. They banned DJI drones from being used for really important work. This meant firefighters, bridge checkers, and people protecting animals couldn't use these drones anymore. Why? They were scared that the information the drones collected might be shared with the Chinese government. So, the people who used drones to save forests from fires or keep bridges safe suddenly had to find other tools. Kind of wild, right? A gadget made to help people got stuck in a big argument between countries. But even with all this trouble, lots of people still love DJI drones. YouTubers, adventurers, and photographers keep using them because they're really good and not super expensive. Some people even make jokes about these drones being spies, but they still love using them to take amazing pictures and videos. No one ever proved that DJI did anything bad. People were just worried about what could happen. But even though there was no proof, more and more groups decided to stop using DJI drones just to be safe. But DJI drones are not the only product this happened to. Throughout history, there have been a lot of tech devices that suffered from success, and today I will show you 11 of them. At the end, you will realize the fucked up truth about how these devices changed the world, why they were seen as too powerful, and what it means for the future of technology. But next up, we got devices that were so smart, they could beat humans at their own games, turning every competition into an unfair fight. Let's say you're playing a multiplayer game. It's the last round, and you're tied 15-15. Your hands are sweaty. Your heart is beating fast. You just need one perfect action to win. But then, your opponent does something so perfect, so crazy, you think, how the fuck is that even real? It might not be. There are gadgets that use super smart AI to help players cheat. Some look like special controllers, and others are little devices you plug in. They can do things like aim perfectly for you, fix your shots, or even guess what your enemy will do next. It's like having a robot play the game with you. The most popular examples are Cronus Zen and Sim Apex. How do these devices work? The Cronus Zen, for example, acts like a middleman between your controller and your console. It tweaks your inputs, making them more precise than humanly possible. It can even run scripts, pre-programmed commands that help you perform advanced techniques effortlessly. The Sim Apex, on the other hand, is famous for letting players use a keyboard and mouse on consoles, giving them the speed and precision of PC gaming in a world designed for controllers. For casual players, these devices can feel like magic. They make gameplay smoother, aiming easier, and recoil almost non-existent. But for serious gamers, they're nothing short of a nightmare. Imagine you spent weeks perfecting your strategy, grinding for hours to climb the ranks. Every win feels like a reward for your hard work. Then, you run into someone using one of these devices. They don't miss a shot, their movements are unnaturally smooth. No matter what you try, they always seem one step ahead. But most importantly, it's infiltrating esports, where the stakes are massive. We're talking about tournaments with prize pools in the millions. Just imagine losing a championship, not because your opponent was better, but because they had a little gadget doing the hard work for them. Game developers aren't taking this lying down. Companies like Activision, Riot Games, and Valve are constantly updating their systems to detect and ban players who use devices like the Cronus Zen. Some even go a step further, designing their games to block the hardware entirely. In big tournaments, anti-cheat measures include everything from real-time monitoring to specialized software that flags unusual behavior. In some places, the fight against cheating has moved beyond the games themselves. Developers and governments are suing the creators of these devices, hitting them where it hurts, their wallets. In a few high-profile cases, authorities have even confiscated cheating hardware and handed out hefty fines to those who sell it. Personally, it amazes me that cheaters will do everything but learn the game. Nah, what type of idea is even that? Gaming cheats might have changed the playing field in virtual worlds, but what happens when technology crosses over into the real world where the stakes are life and death? Imagine pressing print on your computer, but instead of paper, out comes a working gun. Sounds like something from a sci-fi movie, right? Well, in 2013, this actually happened. A man named Cody Wilson, a young inventor with a big idea, made the Liberator, the world's first 3D printed gun. His creation shook the tech world and scared a lot of governments. But Cody wasn't your typical tech genius. He wasn't working for a big company or chasing awards. He was a law student who liked to challenge the rules. To Cody, technology meant freedom. And freedom, he thought, meant people should be able to make anything, even weapons. So he and his nonprofit group, Defense Distributed, built the Liberator, a gun made almost entirely from plastic, printed on a simple 3D printer. It didn't come from a factory or a gun shop. It came from a machine you could have at home, just like a regular printer. The Liberator wasn't fancy. It looked more like a toy than a real weapon, with only one small metal piece, a firing pin. But looks can be deceiving because it worked, and that scared a lot of people. The most shocking part? Cody didn't keep the design to himself. He uploaded the blueprints for free on the internet. Anyone with a 3D printer could download the files and make the gun at home. Within days, the files were downloaded over 100,000 times. Just think about it. People all around the world, from curious tech geeks to dangerous criminals, suddenly had the power to print a gun in their garage. Meanwhile, you might think you're being sneaky downloading free movies, but some teens were out there printing actual guns. Governments freaked out. In the US, the State Department demanded that Cody take the files down, saying he broke international arms export laws. But here's the thing about the internet. Once something is online, it's almost impossible to erase. Countries like Australia, the UK, and Germany rushed to ban the Liberator and tighten their gun laws. But laws can only do so much. Technology was moving faster than governments could keep up, and the Liberator proved just how hard it is to control digital inventions. At first, the Liberator wasn't very good. It could only fire one shot before breaking, and even that shot wasn't very strong. But tech doesn't stop evolving. Gun hobbyists around the world took Cody's idea and kept improving it. Today, 3D printing is better than ever, and new designs keep popping up. This raises big questions. How do we control technology without stopping progress? Who gets to decide what's okay to make? In the end, maybe it comes down to trust. Can people be trusted with powerful tools, or will they find ways to use them for harm? Cody Wilson's Liberator made everyone think about how complicated freedom can be, especially when you can print it. But what if a device wasn't dangerous because of its potential to harm, but because it gave you powers that felt ripped straight out of a science fiction movie? Well, imagine you're walking outside and someone looks at you. No big deal, right? But then you notice they're wearing weird glasses that can secretly record videos of you. Creepy? Ugh, totally. This gadget was called Google Glass, one of the coolest but most controversial tech inventions ever. Google Glass came out in 2013. At first, it looked like regular glasses, but it was actually a tiny computer you could wear on your face. You could check emails, follow maps, take videos, and even search the internet, all without using your hands. It felt like magic, and tech lovers went wild. Wearing Google Glass made you feel like a superhero, kind of like Tony Stark from Iron Man. Early fans called explorers were so excited that they paid $1,500 just to try it before anyone else. They thought they were living in the future, but there was a big problem. Google Glass wasn't just cool, it was also kind of scary. The glasses came with a camera that was super sneaky. It didn't make a sound or flash a light when recording, so someone could be filming you and you'd never know. Imagine sitting with a friend, sharing a personal story, and noticing someone nearby staring at you. Are they just zoning out or quietly recording everything you say? This made a lot of people uncomfortable. Places like movie theaters, casinos, and gyms were the first to ban Google Glass because filming there was against the rules. Soon, cafes and restaurants put up signs saying, "No Google Glass allowed." People didn't want to be watched while eating a burger. It wasn't just businesses. Regular people felt uneasy too. Folks who wore Google Glass in public got a harsh nickname, glassholes. Started as a joke, but quickly became a way of calling out people who seemed rude or creepy while wearing the gadget. Still, Google Glass wasn't all bad. It was an amazing piece of tech that showed us a future where technology blends perfectly into everyday life. But society just wasn't ready. In 2015, Google stopped selling Google Glass to the public. They didn't call it a failure though. Instead, they reimagined it as a tool for doctors, engineers, and factory workers, where hands-free tech could be useful without spying on strangers. Back then, people were shocked by the idea of being recorded without permission. But look at today. We're talking about Neuralink, a brain-computer chip that connects your mind directly to a computer. Think about it. If people were scared of glasses that recorded videos, what about a chip that could read your thoughts? Who would own your brain data? Someone hack your mind or change your memories? It's funny how we change perspective. Just like from looking too close to the TV was bad for us, and then putting on VR glasses and be totally alright. While Google Glass made waves for its futuristic vision, sometimes it's not about being ahead of the curve, it's about breaking the rules of what's allowed. Let's go back to the time when everyone was playing games on their Nintendo DS. It was small, fun, and loaded with awesome games, like Mario Kart DS and Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. But there was one big problem. Games were expensive. Buying just one could cost $30 or more, so having a big game collection was a dream for most kids. Then came the R4 card, a gadget that seemed like pure magic. It looked like a regular DS game cartridge, but it could do something incredible. You could slide a tiny micro SD card into it and load tons of games onto your DS for free. It wasn't just a gadget. It felt like unlocking a secret level in real life. Imagine saving up for months just to buy one game. Then you hear about the R4 card, a little device that could give you hundreds of games without spending another dime. For many kids, it felt like finding a cheat code that worked in real life. But for Nintendo, it was a total disaster. Making video games takes years of hard work from talented teams, and game sales pay their salaries. The R4 card flipped the whole system upside down. Why buy games when you could just download them for free? The damage was huge. Nintendo said they lost billions of dollars because of game piracy during the DS era. Developers started wondering if making games for the DS was worth it, and stores worried about losing sales. For a company known for family-friendly fun, the R4 card was a serious threat. Nintendo wasn't the only one fighting back. As the R4 card became popular, governments around the world noticed. In 2009, Japan, where the DS was a cultural icon, banned the sale of R4 cards. Soon, countries like the UK, Germany, and others followed, saying the device broke copyright laws. But stopping the R4 card wasn't as easy as turning off a game console. Sellers kept showing up online, making new versions that were harder to block. Websites hosting free game downloads appeared everywhere, and online forums were filled with step-by-step guides on how to use the R4 card. It became a cat-and-mouse game. Every time a seller got shut down or a website was blocked, new ones appeared. For gamers, the R4 card was the ultimate life hack, but it wasn't without risks. Some kids accidentally downloaded viruses or even bricked their DS consoles, making them useless. The R4 card's story didn't end with the Nintendo DS. It changed the gaming world forever. Developers realized they couldn't depend only on physical game sales anymore. They began adding anti-piracy features and creating online-only games to make piracy harder. The R4 card might have felt like a cheat code for life, but in the real world, even the best cheat codes come with consequences. If the R4 cards let gamers bend the rules, this next device took things to a whole new level, one so powerful and versatile, it became a hacker's ultimate Swiss Army knife. Imagine a tiny gadget you can carry in your pocket that can unlock car doors, copy key cards, hack Wi-Fi, and even mess with electronic signals. Sounds like something a spy would use, right? But it's real. And it's called the Flipper Zero. It's like a dream tool for hackers, but for governments, it's a big problem. The Flipper Zero was created in 2020 through crowdfunding. Its makers said it was a tool for learning. They wanted tech fans to explore things like radio signals, RFID used in keycards, and infrared remotes. They even made it open source, meaning anyone could see how it works and improve it. For a while, it was all good fun. Tech geeks used it for cool projects like turning on smart lights, opening garage doors, or messing with old school pagers. It was a tech playground for curious minds. But powerful tools can attract the wrong crowd. Some people quickly figured out how to use the Flipper Zero for bad stuff. Many cars use radio signals to lock and unlock doors. With the Flipper, thieves could copy or block those signals and break in. Office buildings, hotels, and even secret places use key cards for security. The Flipper could scan, save, and clone those cards in seconds. While the Flipper wasn't meant to hack Wi-Fi, some clever users made mods to break into networks or mess with internet connections. People started using the Flipper to mess with things like traffic signs, road sensors, and even store TVs. The worst part? The Flipper Zero is easy to use. You don't have to be a tech genius to figure it out. Its user-friendly design makes makes it simple for anyone to cause trouble. It didn't take long for governments to step in. By 2022, reports of crimes linked to the Flipper Zero started popping up. In Brazil, car thefts involving the device became such a problem that custom officials banned it completely. Other countries like Germany and the United States didn't officially ban it, but security teams started keeping an eye on its use. There are stories online of people getting their flippers taken away at airports or stopped by customs. Ironically, banning the Flipper Zero only made it more popular. The device became a tech legend, with prices skyrocketing on resale sites. People found creative ways to sneak it into countries where it was restricted, making the device even cooler to tech fans. The Flipper Zero raises a tricky question. Where's the line between learning and hacking? The creators of the Flipper Zero wanted it to teach people about tech and security. Students, researchers, and ethical hackers use it to learn how systems work and how to protect them. But in the wrong hands, it becomes a tool for theft, pranks, and even serious crimes. The makers made the Flipper open source, letting anyone improve or change it. But with that freedom comes responsibility, and not everyone uses it for good. So, is the Flipper Zero a learning tool or a hacking weapon? That depends on who's holding it. But if you thought the Flipper Zero's hacking potential was wild, imagine a device so discreet you wouldn't even know it's there until it's too late. Up next, a gadget that turned everyday objects into secret surveillance tools, raising eyebrows and breaking trust in the process. Imagine someone pulls out a pen to take notes. Looks normal, right? But what if that pen was secretly recording everything you said and did? That's what spy pen cameras do. Tiny gadgets that look like regular pens, but can secretly film and record. Cool? Maybe. Creepy? Oh, definitely. The idea behind spy pens wasn't sinister at first. When they hit the market, they were aimed at professionals, journalists needing a discreet way to record interviews, or detectives gathering evidence. These pens could record high-quality audio and video through a barely noticeable lens. For these uses, the spy pen seemed like a breakthrough tool, but as with many inventions, it didn't take long for people to misuse it. It turns out, the same features that made spy pens useful also made them dangerous. In the wrong hands, they became tools for spying, blackmail, and outright invasion of privacy. Governments quickly realized the potential for abuse. Countries like the United States, the UK, and India introduced laws to regulate or ban spy pens and similar covert recording devices. In some regions, the sale, possession, or use of these gadgets without proper licensing became a criminal offense. But enforcement has proven tricky. Spy pens are widely available online, often sold under vague names like discrete recording devices or security tools. Manufacturers have also adapted, making the pen smaller, better hidden, and harder to detect. For instance, newer models come with motion detection, so they only record when something happens, saving battery and storage. Some have real-time streaming, sending footage directly to a user's phone or computer. The biggest issue with spy pens isn't just their ability to record, it's the loss of trust they create. Imagine walking into a room and scanning every corner for hidden cameras. Now imagine extending that paranoia to everyday objects. A pen on a table, a book on a shelf, a button on a coat. This constant uncertainty makes people feel unsafe. It's not just about physical privacy, but the psychological toll of knowing that anyone at any time could be watching you without your consent. Some argue that spy pens have legitimate uses, like exposing corruption or gathering evidence in dangerous situations. But how do we balance those benefits against the risks? Even though spy pens are increasingly banned, their technology is evolving. Today, hidden cameras can be embedded in everything from eyeglasses to coffee cups. And as these devices become more advanced, the challenge of protecting privacy becomes even more complex. So, the next time someone pulls out a pen to jot down notes, it's worth wondering, is it just a pen or is it silently recording? Spy pens might have made you paranoid about prying eyes, but our next device didn't care about privacy, cared about profits. Let's dive into the world of hardware so efficient, it changed the game for digital gold mining and ended up sparking a global crackdown. Imagine a machine so powerful, it can create digital money out of thin air. Sounds amazing, right? But here's the catch. That machine gobbles up electricity like a small country, leaving behind a massive environmental footprint. Welcome to the world of Bitcoin mining, where digital fortune comes at a very real cost. In Bitcoin's early years, anyone could mine it. All you needed was a regular computer, some technical know-how, and a dream. Students mined from dorm rooms, tech enthusiasts worked from basements, and early adopters believed they were part of something bigger, a movement for decentralized money, free from banks and governments. Back then, Bitcoin was worth pennies. Mining wasn't about getting rich, it was about believing in the future of digital currency. As Bitcoin's value skyrocketed, mining became competitive. People realized the faster they solved complex math problems, the more Bitcoin they earned. This triggered a technological arms race. By 2013, the days of mining on regular computers were over. The game now belonged to ASICs, application-specific integrated circuits, supercharged machines built exclusively especially for mining Bitcoin. These machines were thousands of times faster than ordinary computers and could perform trillions of calculations per second. But they came with a massive trade-off. They devour electricity and generate intense heat, needing industrial cooling systems just to stay operational. Bitcoin mining exploded into a global mega industry with enormous data centers called mining farms popping up worldwide. These facilities house thousands of ASICs running 24/7 chasing digital gold. The rise of mining farms came at a steep price: energy consumption. Today, Bitcoin mining uses about 120 terawatt hours of electricity per year, more than some countries like Argentina or the Netherlands. And that power isn't always green. Many mining farms rely on coal and gas, contributing heavily to global warming. Mining hubs in countries like Kazakhstan and rural parts of the US have caused blackouts and sky-high electricity bills for local communities. In hot areas, farms use huge amounts of water to cool their machines, draining local supplies. Supporters argue that Bitcoin mining is worth the environmental cost because it promotes financial freedom and decentralization, especially in countries with unstable economies or oppressive governments. Critics, however, see it as an eco-disaster, calling Bitcoin digital gold with a carbon footprint. In 2021, China banned Bitcoin mining, causing a massive industry shakeup. At the time, 75% of all Bitcoin mining happened in China, powered by a mix of cheap coal and hydroelectric energy. But the ban didn't stop mining, it just relocated it. Mining farms moved to places like Texas, Kazakhstan, and Russia, where electricity is cheap and regulations are lax. But with every move, the environmental challenges persist. Some companies are exploring green energy solutions, using solar, wind, or even volcanic energy, yes really, to power mining operations. But scaling these eco-friendly projects remains expensive and difficult. Bitcoin mining might be the future of money, but unless the industry finds a way to balance profit and sustainability, its environmental toll could be too high to ignore. So while mining Bitcoin may sound like digital magic, its cost is all too real for the planet and its people. This shows how tricky it is to control Bitcoin mining. Miners can easily move from one country to another like in a game of whack-a-mole. The big problem is that Bitcoin mining always needs a lot of electricity because of the way it was designed. The harder it gets to mine Bitcoin, the more energy it uses. But Bitcoin isn't the only cryptocurrency, and not all cryptocurrencies are mined the same way. In 2022, Ethereum changed how it works. Instead of mining, it now uses a system called proof of stake, which uses much less energy, over 99% less. Some cryptocurrencies, like Chia, use hard drives instead of machines that need a lot of power. This way, they use much less energy. These new ideas show it's possible to have digital money that doesn't harm the planet as much. Bitcoin mining has changed the way people think about money and technology, but it also shows how much energy the world can handle and the tough choices we need to make to protect our planet. From machines that mined fortunes to a device that once ruled the business world, our next tech device didn't just connect people, it created a fortress of privacy. Imagine a phone so safe that not even the government could read your messages. Sounds awesome, right? Well, in the early 2000s, Blackberry phones were just like that. People loved them, but governments around the world, not so much. What made Blackberry special was its encryption technology. At a time when most phones were easy to hack, Blackberry Messenger, BBM, made messages super secure. Every message was turned into a secret code that only the sender and receiver could understand. Even Blackberry's parent company, Research in Motion, RIM, couldn't read them. For professionals, this was amazing. They could make big business deals without worrying about leaks. For famous people, it kept the paparazzi away from their private lives. And for activists in countries with strict rules, it was a safe way to share ideas and plan protests. Blackberry became known for privacy, and people who wanted security loved it. But what made Blackberry great for users made it a big problem for governments. Police and security agencies couldn't spy on messages sent through BBM. Criminals and terrorists started using BBM too, knowing their messages couldn't be read. Countries like India, the United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia demanded that Blackberry give them access to the encrypted messages, saying it was needed for safety. Some even threatened to ban Blackberry if the company didn't agree. It became a huge fight. Privacy versus security. RIM was stuck. If they gave one government access, others would want it too. That would break their promise to keep messages private. But if they refused, they risked being banned in important markets. The company tried to find a middle ground by working with some governments a little, but this hurt its reputation. The Blackberry drama raised a big question that's still important today. How much privacy is too much? People who supported Blackberry's encryption said privacy is a basic human right. They pointed out that governments sometimes abuse their power and that tools like BBM helped protect innocent people. Activists used Blackberry to organize protests and share information without being caught. On the other hand, critics said that no technology should be completely private. They argued that if criminals and terrorists could hide their plans, it would put everyone else in danger. They said Blackberry's encryption was both helpful and harmful at the same time. While RIM managed to handle the problem for a while, bigger challenges were coming. New competitors like Apple and Android arrived, and Blackberry couldn't couldn't keep up. Its phones still used keyboards, while everyone else moved to smooth touchscreens with lots of apps. By the late 2010s, Blackberry had mostly disappeared, far from its glory days. But Blackberry left a mark on the world. It was one of the first devices to make people think about privacy and security in a big way. Today, apps like WhatsApp and Signal use similar encryption, and the same debates continue between governments, tech companies, and users. For a short but important time, Blackberry was a symbol. It showed how powerful encryption could be and why privacy matters, even when governments push back. Blackberry is no longer a big name, but it's a reminder of the challenges and risks of protecting privacy in a connected world. But if you thought Blackberry phones changed the world too much to handle, just wait until we talk about a gadget so dangerous it could literally blind you in seconds. And no, this isn't from a movie. It's 100% real. Imagine a weapon that doesn't hurt people in the usual way, but makes them blind forever. No more seeing the world, no more watching their family, no more doing things on their own, just darkness for the rest of their life. It sounds like something from a scary movie, right? But these weapons were real, and they were so dangerous that countries had to come together and ban them. Laser blinding weapons used very strong beams of light to harm people's eyes. These lasers would hit the back part of the eye called the retina, which helps us see. Just one quick flash could damage it so badly that the person would never be able to see again. It didn't hurt like a normal injury, but the damage couldn't be fixed. These weapons were quiet and very precise. That means they could hit exactly where they wanted without anyone noticing. They didn't leave marks or destroy buildings like bombs do, but the harm they caused was just as serious. Once someone was blinded, their life changed forever. They couldn't fight, work, or do many things they used to do. People started asking, is this kind of harm too much? Even in war, there are rules to protect people from things that are too cruel. The world decided that these weapons were crossing the line. In 1995, many countries agreed to a rule called the Protocol on Blinding Laser Weapons. This rule said that making or using weapons that blind people on purpose was not allowed. It was one of the first times that countries worked together to stop a new technology because it was too harmful. Lasers are still used by the military today, but for safer things like helping aim, guiding drones, or sending messages. These uses show that technology can be helpful when it's used the right way, but making weapons that blind people forever was a step too far. Even when technology gives us new powers, we must think about what's right and wrong. Just because we can make something doesn't mean we should. The ban on laser blinding weapons reminds us that humanity has rules, even in war. It shows that we can make the world a little better by choosing what lines we won't cross. Laser blinding weapons were so powerful, they could take away sight in seconds. No wonder they got banned. But speaking of devices that push the limits, let's talk about the Bluebox, a little gadget so clever it outsmarted entire phone companies. Let's say you pick up a phone, press some buttons, and suddenly you're making calls to anywhere in the world for free. Sounds like magic, right? But in the 1970s, people really could do this using a small device called the Bluebox. It was like a secret tool for tricking the phone system. The Bluebox didn't look fancy, but it was super smart. Back then, phones worked using special beeping sounds called tones. These tones told the phone system how to connect your call. The Bluebox could copy those sounds exactly, fooling the system into thinking the call was paid for, even when it wasn't. Who figured this out? A group of curious people called phone freaks, the first hackers. One of them, named John Draper, or Captain Crunch, discovered something amazing. A toy whistle from a Captain Crunch cereal box made the exact sound the phone system used to unlock long-distance calls. Pretty soon, he and others turned this idea into the Bluebox. It wasn't just about free calls. It felt like beating the big phone companies, which charged a lot for long-distance calls. College kids, tech nerds, and even some famous people used Blueboxes to talk to friends across the world without paying a cent. Two young guys named Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, the same Steves who started Apple, made and sold Blueboxes as their first business. Wozniak once said that if they hadn't made the Bluebox, Apple might never have existed. Of course, using a Bluebox was illegal. If you got caught, you could be in big trouble. And by the 1980s, phones started using digital systems, so the Bluebox stopped working. But it left a big mark on history, inspiring a new generation of tech lovers and inventors. In conclusion, it's funny how we create tech to solve problems, but half the time, it ends up being the problem. However, when your invention is so good that it gets banned, you know you've either hit fucking genius level or pissed off the wrong people, maybe both. And if you enjoyed this video, check out another one, 8 tech failures that had huge potential.